If everything around you has been getting quieter, if people are pulling away, your energy is gone, and you feel like something is missing, this isn't random. This is how Allah removes what's draining you, without asking your permission. 1. You're not just tired, you're being quietly emptied. You keep telling yourself you're just tired. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's your routine. Maybe it's life in general. That's what you say out loud. But deep down, in the quiet hours of the night, you know, this is not a normal kind of tired, because sleep doesn't fix it. Rest doesn't restore you, and even on the days where nothing goes wrong, you still feel heavy. It's not your body, it's not your schedule, it's your soul. Your soul is tired, but not from doing too much. Your soul is tired from holding too much that was never meant for it. You see, we often carry things quietly, thinking we're being strong. We carry people who no longer pour into us. We carry expectations, guilt, fears, regrets, and the weight of things we don't speak about. We tell ourselves, just a little more. Maybe it will get better. Maybe I'm the problem. And so you keep pouring into conversations that drain you, into relationships that confuse you, into roles that no longer reflect who you're becoming. You smile when you feel like crying. You help when your own heart is aching. You say, "I'm okay," when you haven't felt okay in weeks. And this is where the real exhaustion begins. It's not that you're not strong enough. It's not that you're weak. It's not that you lack faith. It's that Allah is gently showing you, "My servant, you've been holding too much for too long, and I never asked you to carry it alone." What you're feeling now, this deep exhaustion, it's not just a sign that you need rest. It's a sign that you need release. Allah isn't punishing you. He's protecting you, but He knows. You wouldn't walk away from what's hurting you, so instead, He makes you tired of it. Not out of anger, but out of mercy. He's making you tired of begging for love that leaves you empty, tired of chasing things that delay your peace, tired of pouring into what never pours back, tired of carrying what's been silently draining you. Because if He didn't allow this tiredness, you would have kept going, kept trying, kept breaking in silence. So He lets the weight become too much, not to crush you, but to make you stop, pause, and finally ask, "Ya Allah, what am I carrying that you never wrote for me?" Sometimes the most loving thing Allah does is not give you what you asked for, but remove what you never knew was hurting you. And He doesn't always do it loudly. He doesn't always send a warning. He just starts removing things, quietly, softly, with subtle signs. You stop feeling connected to certain people. You lose the excitement for things that once distracted you. You feel lonely in rooms where you used to feel alive. You no longer recognize the version of yourself that keeps showing up for the world, but forgets to show up for your own heart. This is not random. This is sacred. Because before Allah builds you into the next version of who you're meant to be, He empties the version that's no longer true to your soul. He removes what's leaking your light. He drains what's quietly poisoning your purpose. He interrupts the cycle that keeps pretending it's love, when it's really your fear of being alone. You're not lazy. You're not ungrateful. You're not giving up. You are simply in the process of being realigned. Your soul is turning away from what doesn't fit your destiny, and your heart is starting to feel the difference between what feeds you and what only uses you. So if you feel tired in this season, really tired, know that it's not a bad thing. It's your body and your soul agreeing that this version of your life needs to be rewritten. Allah is slowly removing what you wouldn't have let go on your own. He's fading out what you kept begging to stay. He's disconnecting you from what you once thought was your future, so he can finally show you what he had in mind all along. You're not being abandoned. You're being rescued from false peace, from heavy love, from cycles that wear you down, from things that were delaying your growth. And yes, it feels empty now. Yes, it feels lonely. Yes, it feels like something is missing. But that's because Allah is still clearing the space. He's still cleaning the wound. He's still removing the noise, so you can finally hear your own soul whisper again. You don't need to chase anymore. You don't need to pretend you're okay. You don't need to keep carrying what makes you question your worth. If it's falling away, if it's becoming distant, if it no longer brings peace, then understand, this is not just you losing something. This is Allah removing what was draining your spirit. He's not leaving you empty. He's preparing you to be filled with peace, with clarity, with the kind of love that doesn't leave you tired, but makes you feel alive again. So don't be afraid of this tiredness. Don't rush to fix it. Sit with it. Talk to Allah through it. Cry if you must. And know, this isn't the end of you. It's the beginning of the real you, the one who doesn't just survive, but finally begins to live without what was secretly killing you. 2. Allah doesn't always break what's draining you. He just fades it out. Not everything that leaves your life will slam the door. Sometimes it just goes quiet. Sometimes it just drifts. Sometimes it becomes so still, you can't tell whether it left or you stopped reaching. And that silence hurts in its own way, because no one tells you how painful it is when something doesn't break loudly, but still disappears. It confuses you. It makes you question if you're imagining it, if you're being too sensitive, too dramatic, too emotional. But what you're feeling is real. It's not just fading. It's being faded by the one who sees what you can't. Because if Allah broke everything loudly, you'd brace yourself. You'd expect it. You'd have a reason to let go. But the truth is, Allah doesn't always work through loud endings. Sometimes He removes what's hurting you by making you lose your desire for it. You stop checking your phone for their message. You stop feeling excited to go where you used to feel alive. You stop dreaming about what you once begged for. And you don't even know when it changed. You just know that something in you feels different now. This is not failure. This is not loss. This is divine fading, because Allah knows if He tore it away all at once, it would break your heart beyond repair. So instead, He fades it gently. He makes it slowly colder. He makes the connection softer until it slips. He makes you tired of holding on. He makes the effort you once gave with joy feel like a burden, not to punish you, but to prepare you, because you wouldn't have left on your own. You were still hoping, still praying, still asking for signs, still rewriting red flags as patience, still choosing confusion over clarity, just to not feel alone. So Allah, in His mercy, didn't make it explode. He made it fade, so that one day you'd wake up and realize this thing you thought you couldn't live without. You've already survived without it for months, and it didn't destroy you. It revealed you. It emptied the space in your heart that was being filled with noise. And in that silence, you started hearing Allah again. You started remembering what peace feels like. when you're not always bracing for emotional chaos, when you're not second-guessing your worth, when you're not wondering what changed or blaming yourself for why they stopped showing up. Because the truth is, they were never the source of your peace. Allah was. And He's jealous for your heart. Not in anger, but in love. He loves you too much to let you stay in rooms where you feel unseen. He loves you too much to let you keep sacrificing your soul for people who can't even hear your silence. So instead of dragging you out, He slowly made you lose interest. He gently made your heart stop beating for it. He allowed disappointment after disappointment until you stopped expecting anything from it. And it's strange, because the fading hurts just as much as the breaking. But it also protects you, because sometimes the loud break leaves scars, but the slow fade leaves wisdom. The wisdom to not chase what Allah made distant. The wisdom to not mourn what He replaced with peace. The wisdom to trust that if something is becoming unclear, then maybe He never wrote it in light to begin with. Some connections were written in pencil, so He erased them gently. So gently, you almost didn't notice, until you stopped feeling drained. And this is when healing begins. Not with a bang, not with a storm, but with soft surrender. The day you finally stop asking, "Why is this person slipping away?" and start whispering, "Ya Allah, maybe you're pulling me away for something better." That's not weakness. That's awakening. You're not giving up. You're finally letting go of what was pulling you down, while you kept trying to lift it up. Allah doesn't remove something you need. He removes what would have emptied you before you reached what you were meant for. You thought you needed them, but you needed space. You needed silence. You needed stillness to hear what your soul was too tired to say. And Allah gave you that. Through absence, through unanswered calls, through distance that had no closure. It wasn't ghosting. It was guarding. It wasn't confusion. It was clarity dressed in silence. Because Allah is not loud when He protects you. He is subtle. He is kind. He lets the door close softly, so your heart doesn't slam into it. And if you've been feeling this lately, if you've been noticing the fading, then know, this isn't your fault. This is your rescue. You're not being abandoned. You're being rerouted. And soon you'll realize, what you lost quietly was draining you loudly. And now, your soul finally has a chance to breathe. So don't chase what's fading. Don't force what's going quiet. Don't beg for the warmth that Allah is cooling for a reason. Instead, pause, reflect, and trust the fade. Because Allah didn't break it. He just made you strong enough to stop needing it. And one day, you'll look back, not with regret, but with gratitude. Not because it didn't hurt, but because that slow, quiet fade was the softest, most beautiful way Allah ever said to you, "You deserve better than what was draining you." 3. You were trying to hold on, but Allah was already unraveling it. You were trying so hard to hold it together, to save something that kept slipping, to love harder, pray longer, wait patiently, and believe that maybe if you did just a little more, it would stay. You kept rewriting the story in your head, hoping the ending would change. That if you gave your all, maybe that would be enough. You gave your time. You gave your kindness. You gave parts of yourself that no one else even knew you had left. But the more you gave, the more distant it felt. And no matter how tightly you held on, it still unraveled in your hands like threads you couldn't catch fast enough. And you thought it was your fault. You thought maybe you were the problem. Maybe if you had been more, less, stronger, softer, quieter, louder, you played every version of yourself, just to stop something from walking away. But what you didn't know was that while you were fighting to keep it together, Allah was already beginning to take it apart, not to punish you, not to break your heart, but to protect you from what you couldn't see yet. You were holding on for dear life, but He was untying the knots, one string at a time, because He knew you'd never let go on your own. He knew you'd stay, even if it kept hurting. He knew your heart was too loyal, too kind, too forgiving, even to what was draining you. So He didn't rip it from your hands. He just loosened your grip, slowly, softly. He let you see things that changed the way you looked at them. He let you hear words that hurt a little more than usual. He let your energy feel off. He let the connection become uncomfortable, until what you once loved no longer felt like love anymore. You see, Allah is gentle, and when He's trying to remove something you've attached your heart to, He doesn't always do it all at once, because He knows that would break you. So He does it in silence, in stillness, in small, unexplainable shifts. And you noticed them, you felt them, but you didn't want to believe it, so you held on tighter. You kept giving. You kept praying for healing in something Allah was already unraveling. And that's the hardest part, to realize that the thing you wanted so badly was never written to stay. You prayed with tears. You asked Allah to fix it. You asked Him to bring it back to life. But Allah doesn't revive what was meant to die. He doesn't preserve what will harm you later. And He doesn't allow something to stay if it's going to steal what He's preparing to send. So He unraveled it, bit by bit, day by day, until the rope snapped, and you were left holding only memories and prayers that didn't seem to reach. But what you didn't know was that the entire time you were saying, "Ya Allah, please don't let it fall apart," He was saying, "My beloved servant, this was never the home I built for your heart." And yes, you still loved them. You still saw the good. You still saw the potential. But Allah saw the future. He saw the cracks you couldn't see yet. He saw the long nights you would cry over things you didn't deserve. He saw the ways you'd shrink yourself just to make it work. So instead of letting you keep building a home in a burning house, He let the walls fall. And even though it shattered you, He knew what you didn't, that one day you'd look back and say, "I was fighting for something that wasn't even safe for my soul." You were trying to save something that Allah was trying to save you from. And now you're here, on the other side of the unraveling, with scars you don't talk about, and nights you still remember. But you're breathing, and healing, and seeing things with new eyes. Because when Allah takes something away, He doesn't leave your hands empty. He fills them with understanding, with growth, with clarity, with strength you didn't even know was inside you. He shows you the version of yourself that rises when everything you depended on falls. And you might still miss it. That's okay. Healing isn't pretending it never mattered. It's honoring that it did, but knowing it can't come with you anymore. Because if it stayed, it would have blocked everything Allah is preparing. The love, the peace, the healing, the purpose. You thought you were being broken, but you were just being redirected. You thought you were losing your future, but you were just shedding the version of yourself that couldn't carry the next chapter. And now you know, if Allah is unraveling something, no matter how tightly you hold on, It will not stay. But what will stay is what He ties to your heart with His mercy, with His light, with His promise. So don't be afraid of the unraveling. It's not the end. It's the quiet beginning of the life you were always meant to live. 4. You're not breaking. You're being saved from what would have broken you. You think you're breaking. You think you're falling apart. You think something inside you is shattering, piece by piece, moment by moment, and no one even sees it. Not your friends, not your family, not even the people you've given your heart to. You still smile when they ask how you're doing. You still say, Alhamdulillah, with a trembling voice. But the truth is, you've been carrying so much pain in silence that even your prayers feel heavy now. You've been showing up every day with wounds no one can see. You've been faithful, hopeful, and exhausted, all at the same time. And in the quiet moments, you wonder, what did I do wrong? Why is Allah letting this happen to me? Why does it feel like everything I loved is falling away? But what if I told you, you're not being punished, you're not being forgotten, you're not being broken down just for the sake of pain. You are being rescued. What's falling apart right now is what Allah knew would have broken you later. You wanted it to work. You prayed for it to heal. You begged for one more chance. But Allah saw the things you couldn't. He heard the conversations behind your back. He saw the tears you would have cried in a future you were still asking for. He saw the heartbreak that was waiting for you in the direction you kept walking. So instead of letting you walk deeper into the fire, He pulled you out of it. And yes, it hurt. It felt cruel. It felt sudden. But it was never cruelty. It was intervention. Because Allah knew you wouldn't stop loving them. You wouldn't stop believing in them. You wouldn't walk away. So He made it fall away. Not to hurt you, but to save you. And right now, I know, you don't see the full picture. You don't see why the door had to close. You don't understand why someone you gave your heart to suddenly became distant. You don't understand why your dua didn't keep it alive. You don't understand why Allah gave you so much love for something He never intended to stay. But that's exactly where the mercy is. Because sometimes Allah will let your heart be broken, so your soul can finally be free. You don't see how much you were shrinking. You don't see how much energy you spent trying to make it work. You don't see how long you ignored the signs. You don't see how deeply it was draining your peace. But Allah did. And He doesn't just look at what you want. He looks at what you need. He looks at your destiny. He looks at the weight of what's written for you. And if something is standing in the way of that, even if you love it, He'll take it away. Not to destroy you, but because you are too loved to be left in what would destroy you slowly. You keep thinking you're crumbling, but you're actually being peeled away from everything that was pretending to hold you, while it quietly drained the light from your eyes. And maybe it didn't feel toxic. Maybe it wasn't abusive. Maybe it even felt beautiful at times. But Allah doesn't remove based only on how something feels. He removes based on what something is doing to your soul. He sees what you don't. He protects you before you even know you need it. So if it's gone, trust that it didn't leave a second earlier or later than it was written to. That heartbreak you're holding, it was the price of your future healing. And yes, it feels unfair, because you gave your all. You were sincere. You waited. You stayed. You forgave. You kept giving more of yourself, until you had nothing left to give. And Allah saw that. He counted every tear. He heard every silent dua. He witnessed every sleepless night where you turned to him and whispered, "Ya Allah, please don't let this break me." And that's when he said, "I won't let it break you. I'll remove what would have." That's what's happening now. You're not falling apart. You're being lifted out. Lifted out of what was only holding you halfway. Lifted out of what kept you stuck in cycles of almost healing and always hurting. Lifted out of what you thought was a blessing, but was actually a block. Allah is not watching you break. He is breaking what would have broken you. And He's doing it now, because He knows what He's preparing next. A version of you who can love again without fear. A version of you who no longer has to guess if they're enough. A version of you who knows peace doesn't come from people. It comes from Allah alone. This is not the end of your story. It's the soft ending of a chapter you've already outgrown. It's the moment Allah says, "You don't have to try so hard to be loved anymore. Let me show you the love I've written for you. So cry if you need to. Grieve if it helps. Feel the sadness, but don't stay in it forever. Because every piece that's falling is part of the wall that was blocking your light. And when the dust settles, you'll see it clearly. You'll look back, and instead of saying, 'That broke me,' you'll say, 'That saved me,' because it did. And one day, you'll thank Allah for not giving you what you thought you needed, so He could give you what your soul had been quietly begging for all along. 5. Some things hurt, but they're healing you at the root. Some pain doesn't scream. It hums in the background. It lives in your chest like a weight. It visits you in moments of stillness, when everyone's asleep, and you're left alone with the parts of you you try to ignore. You don't always cry, but you always feel it. You've learned how to carry it quietly, how to function with a soul that aches beneath your smile. And the world sees you as strong, because you show up. You get things done. You don't complain. But strength isn't always a blessing when it becomes your only survival tool, when it becomes the mask you wear to hide the wounds you never had time to heal. And maybe lately, those wounds are reopening, not because you're weak, but because you're finally still enough for Allah to start healing you properly. You see, real healing doesn't happen on the surface. Real healing happens at the root. And to get to the root, sometimes Allah has to dig deeper than you're used to. That's why it hurts more now. Not because you're breaking, but because He's going to the very place you've been avoiding all this time. The place where your self-worth got buried. The place where you stopped trusting. The place where you silenced your needs, just to be enough for someone else. He's not trying to harm you. He's trying to rescue you from what has been silently harming you for years. And you didn't even know it. You thought you were just tired, just going through a phase, just healing slowly. But what's happening now isn't just healing, it's transformation. Allah is not putting a bandage on the pain. He's removing what caused it. That's why people are falling away. That's why memories are resurfacing. That's why old triggers are showing up again. Not to torture you, but to finally clean the wound you've been covering with strength for too long. Because Allah loves you too much to let your soul heal in crooked ways. He doesn't want to just stop your crying. He wants to stop the reason behind the crying. He doesn't want you to survive on emotional numbness. He wants to revive the part of you that forgot what real peace feels like. And that kind of healing hurts. It shakes things loose. It pulls away false identities. It ends relationships you thought you needed. It closes doors that fed your ego, but starved your soul. And it's not because you weren't enough. It's because you were too precious to let poison sit quietly at the root of your joy. So Allah allowed the storm, not to destroy you, but to flood the garden of your heart and wash out the rot that you thought was normal. You didn't even realize how much was buried there, how much anger you've silenced, how many tears you've swallowed, how many moments of neglect you called strength. But Allah saw it all. He watched you when you stayed quiet. He held you through nights of silent heartbreak. He counted the times you said, "I'm fine," when you were actually drowning. And now, He's healing you, not by making you feel nothing, but by making you feel everything, so that you never confuse survival with peace again. He's not healing the version of you that learned how to hide. He's healing the version of you that once believed you had to beg for love, that you had to overgive to stay accepted, that you had to keep forgiving people who were never sorry. You thought your heart was the problem, but your heart was the victim. And now, Allah is finally pulling the knife out. The one that's been buried so long, you forgot it was even there. It might bleed, it might ache, but this pain is the first honest thing you've felt in a long time. Because this time, you're not performing strength. You're not hiding your sadness. You're not patching things up to keep others comfortable. You're healing for real. For you. For Allah. For the version of you who deserves to live fully, not in fragments. And no, it won't all happen overnight. Sometimes the root goes deep. Sometimes it traces back to childhood, to a moment of abandonment, to a sentence someone spoke that made you feel small, to a betrayal you never truly named. And that's okay. Allah knows every layer, every scar, every piece of the story that no one else understands. He knows how long it lived in your chest. He knows why you're scared to open it up. But He also knows that once it's out, you will finally breathe again. You'll finally pray without heaviness. You'll finally rest without guilt. You'll finally laugh without waiting for something to go wrong. You'll finally love again. Not out of desperation, but from overflow. Because He removed what was choking your roots. The pressure, the pretending, the people who only knew the strong version of you, but never cared to hold the tired one. You're not being punished. You're being restored. Allah is giving you back to yourself, the self that trusts again, that hopes again, that stops watering dead things just to feel needed, that no longer confuses pain with purpose. So, if it hurts right now, let it. If you're crying, don't hold it in. If you feel raw, open, and undone, say Alhamdulillah, because you're not dying. You're finally living. And this pain you're feeling, it's not the pain of staying stuck. It's the pain of being set free. So let Allah go deep. Let Him dig as far as He needs to. Because what He's trying to build next will need roots that are healed, not hidden. 6. You're not meant to live drained. You're meant to rise fueled by His mercy. You weren't created to live like this. Tired all the time. Numb. Overwhelmed. Drained. Before the day even begins. This isn't how your soul was meant to live. You wake up heavy. You fall asleep, exhausted. And in between, you carry things that no one ever sees. Smiling when your chest feels tight. Serving others when your own soul is starving. Being the strong one, the patient one, the reliable one, even when you're quietly breaking inside. And maybe you've gotten so used to this pace that you've forgotten what peace even feels like. You think this is normal, that this is life, that being burned out means you're doing it right. That exhaustion is a badge of honor. That giving until you have nothing left is what makes you worthy. But this isn't faith. This isn't piety. This isn't what Allah asked from you. He didn't create you to collapse in silence while you keep pretending everything is okay. He didn't ask you to smile for people while your soul quietly weeps at night. He didn't place you on this earth to be everyone's light while you forget your own source of it. You weren't made to run on empty. You were made to rise, fueled by His mercy, not by people's approval, not by worldly pressure, not by guilt disguised as loyalty, but by His mercy, His presence, His provision. There is a softness in His plan that the world keeps trying to harden in you. There is a peace in His words that no amount of busyness can offer. And yet you keep going, faster, harder, longer, pushing through, giving more, saying yes when you want to say no. But all the while, your spirit is begging, please, pause. Please, breathe. Please, just remember me. Because somewhere along the way, you started treating peace like a luxury instead of your default. You started treating your needs like they were optional. You started shrinking your heart to fit into boxes that were never built for the beauty you carry inside. And Allah is watching. He sees the way you pour into everyone else. He sees the way you hold others through their storms, while hiding your own flood. And He's not disappointed in you. He's not angry with you. But He's whispering to your tired soul, you were never meant to live this way. You don't need to earn love through overgiving. You don't need to exhaust yourself to matter. You don't need to perform to be worthy in my eyes. You were created to move with peace, not pressure, to walk with calm, not chaos, to serve with heart, not burnout. But the world teaches you the opposite. It teaches you to keep going no matter what, to never rest, to keep showing up, to prove yourself, to stay available, to be productive, even when it's destroying your soul. But Allah, He asks something different. He says, come to me and I will give you rest. Speak to me and I will give you peace. Trust me and I will guide you gently. You don't have to chase anymore. You don't have to beg anymore. You don't have to perform for love that keeps moving the finish line. You only have to return. Return to the one who never asked you to break yourself, just to feel seen. You're not meant to be drained all the time. You're not meant to pour from emptiness. You're not meant to hold everyone else together while you quietly fall apart. You're meant to receive, to breathe, to live from a place of barakah, where every step is guided, every breath is blessed, every movement is aligned. You're meant to rise, not with fear, but with divine fuel. And the reason it hurts so much right now, the reason your heart feels heavy, your mind feels cluttered, and your chest feels tight, is because you've spent too long being everything for everyone, while forgetting to just be with Allah. This isn't failure. This is a wake-up call, a sacred interruption, a gentle redirection. Allah is not watching you fall apart from a distance. He's allowing you to slow down so He can rebuild you. He's taking away what drains you so He can give you what sustains you. He's removing the noise so you can finally hear your own soul again, the one that once found joy in sujood, the one that once felt peace in silence, the one that used to cry not from exhaustion, but from connection. And He's bringing you back to that. through this pause, through this stillness, through this tiredness that feels unfamiliar, but sacred. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not falling behind. You're just being called back to a version of you that runs on mercy, not muscle. You're being reminded you don't need to be everything. You just need to stay connected to the one who already is. You don't need to chase energy. You need to rest in Rabbul Alamin. You don't need to earn worthiness. You were already created in honor. You don't need to run harder. You need to kneel deeper. That's where your strength is. That's where your peace is. That's where the fire comes back into your soul. Not from doing more, but from coming back home, to the Quran, to stillness, to dhikr, to sujood, to silence, to Him. So don't be afraid to slow down. Don't be afraid to rest. Don't be afraid to walk away from what drains you and walk towards what lifts you. You weren't created to suffer through your days. You were created to walk with purpose, to serve with meaning, to love with clarity, to live with barakah. And it all begins, not by doing more, but by letting go of what Allah never asked you to carry. You're not meant to live drained. You're meant to rise, fueled by the mercy of the One who knows how to refill you without draining you again. 7. What's fading was blocking what Allah is trying to send. You keep noticing it. Something's fading. Maybe a friendship. Maybe a feeling. Maybe a dream you once prayed for with your whole heart. It's not sudden. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just fading. And no one sees it but you. The space, the distance, the shift. They still smile. You still reply. But something sacred feels like it's slowly dissolving. And you don't know why. You didn't plan for it. You didn't ask for it. And part of you keeps wondering what you did wrong. But deep down, you know you're not the same anymore. You've changed. Or they've changed. Or maybe Allah is changing something unseen around you that your heart hasn't fully caught up with yet. You're still trying to hold on, still trying to rekindle the spark, still trying to rewind the connection to what it once was, but it's not coming back. No matter how much you try, no matter how sincere you are. And the hardest part is, you loved this. You were grateful for it. You asked Allah to keep it. So now you're confused. Why would He allow it to slowly disappear? Why is something that once felt like a gift now feels so distant? You keep asking, Ya Allah, is this a test? Why do I feel so disconnected from something I loved so deeply? But what you don't realize yet is, this fading is actually a form of divine protection, because not everything you love is meant to stay with you forever. And not everything that feels good to your heart is good for your future. Allah sees what you can't. He knows what that person would become in the next season. He knows the conversations you haven't heard. He knows the way your peace would slowly begin to unravel if He let it continue. So instead of tearing it away loudly, He fades it, so gently, so silently, that it almost feels like nothing happened. But your soul feels it, and the confusion begins. Why is this slipping? Why does it feel like we're not aligned anymore? Why is there distance without reason? And the answer is, because something greater is trying to reach you, something your heart asked for, something your soul was built for. But it can't enter while something else is still taking up the space. You keep praying for clarity, but holding on to confusion. You keep praying for peace, but protecting what's disrupting it. You keep praying for closeness to Allah, but begging Him to preserve what's pulling you away from Him. He heard your dua. He always hears it. But His answer didn't come in the form of addition. It came through removal. Because some blessings don't arrive in your life until certain energies leave. Some barakah doesn't flow until you stop pouring it into a cup with holes. Some love won't reach you until you stop anchoring yourself to people who never had the capacity to carry your soul. So yes, it's fading. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels like loss. But what you're actually witnessing is Allah clearing the path for what your soul is truly ready to receive. And if it stayed, it would block what He's trying to give you. It would drain the space. It would dull the light. It would crowd the soil He's been preparing for a new seed to bloom. But the problem is, you've built identity around what's fading. You've built memories, moments, hopes, visions of the future. You've attached so many parts of yourself to something that was only written to walk with you part of the way. So letting go feels like losing yourself. But it's not. It's releasing what you're not meant to carry into the next chapter, because that next chapter requires a lighter soul, a freer heart, a clearer path. And it can't begin while you're still glued to what's fading in front of you. You're trying to revive something that was only meant to be a lesson, not a lifetime. And if Allah allowed it to stay, it would slowly block the sunlight, meant for what's coming. It would silence the guidance you've been begging for. It would distract you from the blessing you've been prepared for. It would weigh you down, just enough to keep you one level below your next rise. So yes, this might be a goodbye, a slow one, a soft one, but a necessary one. You may not understand it now, but soon you will. You'll look back and see that what was fading wasn't punishment. It was protection. It wasn't cruelty. It was clearance. It wasn't a closed door. It was a sacred redirection towards the one Allah has been preparing behind the scenes. The friend who won't use your silence against you. The space that doesn't drain your energy. The work that fuels your soul. The love that doesn't ask you to shrink. The peace that doesn't make you perform. But none of it can reach you while you keep holding what's already left you in spirit. So let it fade. Let it fall gently. Let the silence settle without chasing it. Because it's only when you finally allow something to go that Allah begins to fill that space with something you didn't even know you were missing. And when that day comes, you'll understand. The distance was not disconnection. It was divine redirection. The silence was not abandonment. It was a transition. The fading was not rejection. It was space being made for the arrival of something sacred. 8. This emptiness is not an end. It's sacred space being cleared for your next chapter. You feel it. That emptiness. It's quiet. It's cold. And it follows you into rooms full of people. It walks beside you in the middle of the day and curls up beside your heart at night. And you keep wondering why it won't leave, why nothing fills it, why even the things that used to bring you joy now feel distant. You try. You really do. You scroll. You distract yourself. You pray. You cry. But still, it lingers. And in that stillness, you start to question everything. Why do I feel like this? Why did Allah let it all fall away? Why does this emptiness feel louder than my hope? But what if I told you, this emptiness is not a punishment. It's not an end. It's not abandonment. It's not rejection. This emptiness is sacred space. It's a space being cleared. Gently, quietly, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Because before something new can be written, the page must be emptied. Before something divine can arrive, the heart must be hollowed out from what was once clinging too tightly to dunya. And sometimes, the most beautiful chapters of your life begin right after everything goes silent. You don't see it yet, but something is being rearranged. Not around you, inside you. Because what you were asking for, peace, clarity, strength, purpose, it can't exist in a heart that's still crowded. So Allah emptied it. Not with noise, not with force, but with silence. He removed what wouldn't let you grow. He paused what you kept rushing. He distanced you from what kept you distracted. And now, you're here. In the stillness, in the unknown, in the pause between stories. And it feels scary, because you don't know what's coming. You don't know who will stay. You don't know if things will ever feel full again. But trust this, Allah doesn't empty your hands, unless He's preparing to fill them with something greater. He doesn't clear the heart, unless something more beautiful is meant to live there. He doesn't close a door with silence, unless there's something behind the next one that speaks in ways this world never could. So don't fear the emptiness. Don't rush to fill it. Don't settle for temporary noise, just because the silence is uncomfortable. Because this emptiness, this is where the healing happens. This is where you meet yourself again. This is where you hear Allah more clearly, because the distractions have finally faded. And yes, you'll feel lonely here. You'll feel invisible. You'll feel like no one understands. But this is not where you stay. This is where you prepare. You are not forgotten. You are being rewritten. You are not being left behind. You are being pulled ahead. Quietly, carefully, completely. Because your next chapter can't be written with the same ink. The next version of you can't be built on the ruins of who you had to become to survive. So Allah brings you here, to the pause, to the space in between, where nothing feels certain, but everything is being shaped. This is where the unseen work begins, the heart work, the soul work, the letting go of what felt safe, but wasn't sacred. You're shedding pieces of a life you thought you'd always love. You're watching people drift who once knew the sound of your voice better than your own thoughts. And it hurts, not because you failed, but because Allah is creating distance between you and what would have delayed your rise. You are not losing. You are being cleared, so something can finally arrive that won't confuse your heart, won't drain your energy, won't demand your silence, just to feel accepted. But to receive it, you have to sit in this sacred emptiness, this divine stillness, this quiet surrender. Because what's coming is not ordinary. It's not another cycle. It's not another attachment. It's not another that leaves you tired. It's different. It's deeper. It's from Allah. And when it comes, you'll understand why it took this long. You'll understand why the space had to be cleared. You'll understand why the ones you begged to stay had to go. Because they would have blocked the blessing. Because they would have made you doubt the gift. Because they would have watered down the beauty of what Allah was sending just for you. So now, your only job is to surrender. To stop calling the emptiness a curse. To stop rushing to fill it to stop fearing it like it's a mistake. It's not. It's the divine evidence that your next chapter is too valuable to be built on crowded soil. So be patient, be soft, be still, because in this very emptiness, Allah is planting something your eyes haven't seen yet, something your soul will recognize when it finally arrives. And when it does, you'll look back at this silence and say, that wasn't the end. That was the beginning I couldn't see. If it's fading, let it. If it's falling silent, don't chase the noise. If it's becoming heavy, don't force yourself to carry it. If it's pulling away, don't run after what Allah is already removing. Because sometimes, Allah doesn't speak through miracles. He speaks through absence, through delay, through quiet exhaustion, through the people who slowly step back, so you can finally step forward. Everything that drained you was never meant to stay, and every tear you cried wasn't lost. It was planting the next version of you that's finally ready to rise. So don't rush to refill the space. Let it stay empty for a while, because that space isn't loneliness. It's sacred preparation. Allah doesn't just remove. He rewrites. He rebuilds. He replaces in ways the heart could never imagine. And the you that's rising now was never born to live drained. You were born to live divinely fueled, mercy-fed, purpose-driven, light-protected. So trust the emptiness. Honor the silence. Let the wrong things leave, because the right ones won't arrive until they do. You're not being left behind. You're just being led to something too sacred to arrive while your heart is still crowded. And soon, what once drained you will feel like a distant memory, because the version of you that allowed it won't exist anymore.